Hey guys, so I'm going to start off with Adhesive Apothecary glitter glue on this fully prepped, spray painted and dried tumbler. And I'm just going to spread this glue all over the tumbler. This glue does look a little chunky and that's my fault. It's not normally like that. I accidentally spilled some glitter on this brush when I had some wet glue on it. So it's just transferring to this cup, which is fine because I will just cover it up with this glitter, which is Bellatrix from PDB Creative Studio. So you'll want to go ahead and just sprinkle this glitter all over the entire tumbler. I didn't think about it and I went ahead and glittered the bottom of this tumbler, but you don't have to. You can go ahead and skip the bottom since we're going to be covering it up. Once you have your glittering done, you're going to want to shake off the excess, let dry, and then epoxy until smooth, 1, possibly 2 coats. Once your epoxy is smooth and dry, we're going to move on to the decals. The color of the vinyl you use is not important since it's going to be covered up and taken off. So I typically just like to use whatever scrap vinyl I have laying around so I don't waste it. These particular spiderweb decals I found on Etsy, you just make them in random sizes. I think the biggest one I made was a 6-inch, and then I just made a couple smaller ones. You just want some different size variations and you want to place them randomly all over the cup. So you'll want to go ahead and stagger these randomly all over the cup. If I put one up top, I will put one down below. You don't want anything overlapping or too close to each other. Once you get all your decals placed where you like them, you'll want to take this outside and spray paint it. I used a Rust-Oleum white gloss spray paint. And then when your spray paint is dry, we'll move on to the next step. Next, I'm going in with this pigment powder called Sweet Child from Woody's Goodies. Using a fluffy brush, I'm going to take this powder and just buff it into the paint. Once you have that all buffed in, you'll just want to start removing all those spiderweb decals. Once those are all removed, we're going to move on to our epoxy step. Once my epoxy is fully mixed, I'm going to stir in some of these holographic flakes. The name of these flakes is Fairy Godmother and they're from PDB Creative Studio. Be very careful when using these flakes, they are very messy. So what I like to do is I take my stir stick that I used to stir up my epoxy since it's kind of tacky and use that to scoop up my flakes. So I'll just use whatever is stuck to my stir stick and I'll dip it in there one more time. And you don't want a bunch of them in there, just enough to where it gives it a little shimmer. Of course, you can always add more if you wanted more of them in there, but you cannot take away what you put in there, so just use it sparingly. The epoxy I'm using is Speedy Petey, and I have about 20 milliliters mixed up for this tumbler. Once I finish applying it, I'm going to hit it with my heat gun, and then I'm going to let it cure and move on to the next step once it's fully dry. Now my tumbler is all dry, and here's what it looks like so far. As you can see, it has that nice purpley blue shift, And the holographic flakes aren't being picked up by my camera very well, but they are definitely reflective and very holographic. These vinyl stickers I got from Gracefully Created. So now we're going to go ahead and cut out our decals and place them on the empty areas in our tumbler. So for this next area, it's a curved section of the tumbler. So depending on what shape you're using for your design, you may or may not run into this problem. Here there's just something stuck under my vinyl I was trying to get out. Make sure that there's nothing like that underneath your vinyls when you're placing them. So what I do is when I go to lay these on a curved surface, I will kind of pick a path and I will run my finger along that path, and then I will start in the middle and start going outward, smoothing it out. If it doesn't lay flat, you can definitely go in with your scissors and cut into those clear areas. You don't want to cut into the colored area, just the clear spots. The important part is to get the colored part of the decal smooth and without wrinkles, because the clear areas I'm going to go around after I get this laid down and cut all those clear areas out because there will be wrinkles in them. So now that my decal's down, I'm going to go ahead, like I said, and cut out all these clear areas that have any kind of wrinkles or bubbles or imperfections in them. When cutting through these, make sure you're not pressing too hard. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to cut through them. Now that I'm done with that decal, I'm going to go ahead and move on to my others. Again, just placing random ones in any empty spaces that I see around the tumbler. For this decal, I decided to cut it in half and put it down on the bottom rim. So now I'm just going to line it up with the bottom rim. You don't want to go too far down. I just put it right above that little lip there, and then I smooth it down really, really good. Once all your decals are on and you're happy with their placement, you'll want to go ahead and put another coat of epoxy on and let dry before we move on to the next step. So this step is kind of hard to explain or show, so I'm going to do the best I can, and I hope you guys can understand. So what I'm doing is I'm holding my tumbler pretty far away from my spray paint, and I'm spraying above the cup so that way the paint falls down on it. And I'm just doing this in little bursts. So you'll just want little speckles of your paint to land on it. And you'll want to do this pretty moderately all over the tumbler. Once your paint's dry, you're going to need some acetone or alcohol. I like acetone, you don't have to work as hard. And then you'll also need a paper towel. So what I'm going to do to get this look here is I'm going to put a little acetone on my paper towel. And then starting at the bottom, I'm going to gently wipe up the tumbler. And I'm just very lightly going over this paint. It gives it kind of this weathered, almost faded wood grain type of look. I'm going to keep going around the tumbler, just lightly swiping up the tumbler. You definitely don't want to do this too hard because it will wipe off everything. So definitely use a very light hand and just minimal acetone. When you're happy with how it looks, go ahead and stop, and you'll go ahead and put on your final coats of epoxy and you'll be done. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Until next time, bye!